Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Executive Policy Committee meeting for June the 17th, 2025. We're gathered today on Treaty 1 territory, the home and the traditional lands of the Anishinaabe, Innu, and Dakota peoples, the national homeland of the Red River Métis. Our drinking water comes from Shoal Lake 40 First Nation in Treaty 3 territory. I'm joined today by my councillor colleagues, Councillors Lukes, Duncan, Edie, and Barwadi, our interim CAO, Mr. Sherwood Armbruster, our clerks, and their team as well. We have members of the public service who will or may join us for their respective reports in due course over the morning. So begin today with a motion to receive the minutes of the previous meeting. Councillor Barwadi, thank you. All in favor, aye. Opposed, carried.
I'd like to move a leave of absence motion for Councillor Santos for city business.
All those in favor, aye. Aye. Opposed, carried.
I'd like to move suspension of the rules to consider the following items. EPC item report 13, Standing Policy Committee on Property Development report dated June 11th, Standing Policy Committee on Public Works report dated June 12th, and Standing Policy Committee on Community Services report dated June 13th.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Great. We have, I think, 3 delegations this morning, Madam Clerk.
That's correct. All 3 delegations are to be heard with respect or in support of the Transportation Master Plan, item 3 of the report of the Standing Policy Committee on Public Works. And first up is Chris Lawrence.
Good morning. Welcome.
Good morning, Mr. Mayor and members of EPC. In my 34 years, I've never come to make a presentation bearing the wrong file. Today I did. So I'm hopefully going to be able to do it off my iPhone. So be gentle with me if I run over a little bit. I did time it this morning, and it was within the requisite 5 minutes. In any event, good morning to each and every one of you. It's a pleasure to appear this morning to speak in support of item number 3, the adoption of the Transportation Master Plan, Transportation 2050, as recommended to you by the Standing Policy Committee on Public Works. We applaud those recommendations, and in particular, the work of its chair, Councillor Lukes, and the members of the committee. Each of them are to be thanked for their excellent work. We also applaud and wish to acknowledge the really hard work that was done in the consultation, research, and writing of this exhaustive report, and in particular, the Director of Public Works, who chaired the steering committee. We are therefore pleased to appear in support of the recommendations as offered for your consideration by Public Works. They move forward in key areas, including a strategic road network study, a goods movement study, the maturing of investment planning in pedestrian and cycling strategies. And these points speak to the imperatives of linking investment in transportation with economic growth and ensuring that Winnipeggers can get to where they want to go or need to be using a transportation mode of their choice. And we understand, as do you, of course, that this is a starting, not an end point. Its implementation will no doubt be influenced and afflicted and affected by circumstances and realities, fiscal being chief amongst them, going forward. We do think the TMP creates a reasonable vision for the future. You have my June 12th submission. I won't repeat it. I do wish to offer a couple of observations. The TMP, like any plan, speaks to implementation steps. It talks about the investment that's needed over a prescribed period of time, the introduction of new FTE positions. All of that is estimated to be an additional investment of $4.3 billion over the next 25 years. And I caution that absent a council focus on growing the economy with resulting access to growth revenues, the benefits of this plan will simply remain on paper. To facilitate the above, we resubmit our view that you have to proceed with a C-suite position, a Chief Economic Development Officer. The private sector does this. They harness the advantages of business development officers, chief revenue officers, and senior C-suite executive positions to grow the size of their business and expand their revenues and become better and more efficient. The Manitoba Premier's Business and Jobs Council provides the Premier with advice on economic development and policy, and he is as well supported, or his government is supported, with a Minister of Business, Mines, Trade and Job Creation, and that minister is supported by a deputy and a department charged with all matters dedicated to economic growth. The Prime Minister's cabinet is replete with ministers focusing on growth, including Canadian Northern Economic Development, Transport and Internal Trade, Federal Economic Development Agencies, Canada-US Trade, and One Canadian Economy and International Trade. The collective objective is to create one economy, diverse, resilient, sustainable, stable, and energy superpower. That laser focus on all matters related to growth is what Winnipeg needs, not just to be a real partner with the province and the federal government in growing our economy, but to credibly make the case for a new fiscal deal to face the growing demands, whether operation or capital, that face the city, as evident, for example, in the TMP. Your decision-making culture cannot be focused just on developing plans that require the generation of revenues. It must concurrently, as demonstrated with the above examples, be focused on steps to grow the economy, to add new taxpayers, new contributors to the revenue streams required by the City of Winnipeg. And part of the reason is that the existing fiscal arrangement, whether we talk about access to revenues or the sharing of revenues, is clearly outdated and inadequate to the tasks before you. You again received, oh my gosh, you again received a report forecasting a $19 million operating deficit against reserves of only $22 million. This is reoccurring, it's structural in nature, it's not going to disappear.
Do you need 1 minute?
1 minute.
Conclude. Motion minute. Councillor Lukes, thank you. All in favor? Aye. Carry on.
The TMP provides an example and reason why you must acknowledge the importance of achieving fiscal stability, of generating new sustainable revenues in order to give full life to the TMP. You've reached the point, you've passed the point, where you can overly rely on realty taxes. Adopt the TMP recommendations for the reasons noted earlier, absolutely. But concurrently, make public policy history and leave an important legacy. Be the first major Canadian urban centre to advance in the appropriate forum and with public support the importance to our collective social and economic welfare of the Chief Economic Development position and a new fiscal deal with the three orders of government. You can count, in our view, on a stronger public opinion and stronger public support than perhaps you realize. It is the necessary and the right direction to pursue. We urge you to pursue it. Thank you. That's pretty good.
Right on the button, not
Right on the button.
bad, so thank you.
Even with an iPhone.
Even with iPhone. One question, you did mention, your call for the city to establish the Chief Economic Development Officer to focus on economic development. Tied to that, obviously, is what you've talked about, we've talked about, we've said several times around here, is that it's cities and municipalities that are the last to receive benefit of economic growth. That doesn't mean we shouldn't participate in it. We do need to participate in it. We need to have a strong economy so we can afford to deliver the services of pools and libraries and roads and everything else. We need a strong economy to deliver strong city services. I guess the question is, for yourself as the Manitoba Heavy Construction and your partner, I'll say sister organizations across the nation, do you speak with one voice to the federal government? I know that, for example, the Federation of Canadian Municipalities, and Councillor Broady has done really great work in his roles, have called upon the federal government to establish a municipal growth framework, a new, more equitable way to fund local governments, that it does include what you say, all orders of government, federal, provincial, so that municipalities and cities have the resources and the revenues and the tools needed to deliver the infrastructure and the services. So I'm just wondering if you speak with not only the Manitoba Heavy, but across the nation, the other associate organizations, to lobby the federal government to be serious about getting to the table with municipalities to establish a new growth framework.
This discussion, as you imply in your question, Mr. Mayor, is multi-layered. I am also the president and CEO of Western Canada Road Builders, which represents the industry in the 4 western provinces. We have a disproportionately influential voice at the national level with the Canadian Construction Association. Most of its policies related to infrastructure, sharing of revenues, division of services, et cetera, are ones that are developed by Western Canada Road Builders. We're also members of the Civil Infrastructure Council, where the entire heavy civil industry is involved. And I can tell you quite candidly and clearly that the view of the heavy civil construction industry and the view of the vertical industries as represented by the CCA acknowledges and recognizes that the horse is dead, dismount the horse. It needs a re-engineering. However, to think that you can re-engineer starting at the federal level is, I think, too massive a project to be workable. Manitoba is in a unique situation in the sense that we have one major urban center. That one major urban center can lead the way. It is positioned to lead the way. There has been ongoing discussion related to this topic, both at the civic and provincial levels. There is good public support. There is good business community support. There is acknowledgement of the fact that the existing model under which you operate afflicts, not affects positively, your ability to govern. You're constantly in a situation where do I find the revenues? How do I create this reserve fund? From where do I take the reserve funds? I have to take revenues that were perhaps identified to me as coming from the province for purposes other than, but I have to put it into the fiscal stabilization fund because I can't run an operating deficit. That's not the way to govern. You cannot govern that way. A business cannot govern that way. A home cannot operate that way. And it's long overdue for this city to have that blank sheet exercise with the provincial government and the public. What are the services that are to be delivered by each level of government? Which government delivers the service? How are those services to be funded and paid? Through which revenue streams? And the outcome of that is then that new fiscal deal. Again, I refer to the 2011 report of the Infrastructure Funding Council, which you and I, Mr. Mayor, had the opportunity not that long ago to consider. It offers recommendations in three baskets: what the City of Winnipeg can do on its own, what the city can and should be doing with the province, and what the city and province should be doing with the federal government. But it needs to start with the city, and it has to start with the city demonstrating to the public and to the provincial government that it's serious about economic growth.
Thank you. Any other questions at all? Okay, thank you very much. Okay, Councilor Lukes.
I want to thank you thank you very much for participating in this process. It did take longer than we wanted due to COVID and some other challenges, but I think overall, in a city without freeways, I think overall we've all worked together to come up with a balance. As you know, we did in the Public Works Committee readjust the priorities so that we could move up the strategic network plan and the goods movement plan. So I hope you're okay with that.
Absolutely. I also like the way that the recommendations read in terms of the frequency with which reports are to come back to Public Works to have a public understanding and a political oversight over the progress of the plan. I think it's important that if you've invested the 5 years to develop the plan, that you follow up with investment in FTE and you follow up with regular scheduled reports to advise you of progress. That's critical.
Yeah, and that gives the public, gives the stakeholders an opportunity to come and give comments and feedback
Absolutely.
in the public forum. So super, thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you.
Okay, our next delegation is David Linton, Manager of Policy with the Manitoba Trucking Association, joining us in person.
Good morning, Mr. Linton. Welcome.
Good morning. Thank you. My name is David Linton. I'm the Manager of Policy for the Manitoba Trucking Association. I'm also a registered professional planner. The MTA supports the Transportation Master Plan because it includes goods movement. It prioritizes the refurbishment project for Route 90 and the extension of the Chief Peguis Trail. The TMP also sets the stage for a strategic road network study and a Winnipeg area transportation study. Both of these studies are important to the future of goods movement, the health of Winnipeg's trade-based economy, and the economy of the surrounding metro region. The MTA is also pleased to support the recommendations of the Standing Policy Committee on Public Works on this agenda item. The MTA is ready to work with the public service on the directions recommended by the Standing Policy Committee and on implementing the TMP. The MTA seeks to prioritize goods movement by truck while maintaining the safety of all road users. Throughout the planning process, the MTA has advocated for maintaining connectivity, safety, and efficiency of goods movement by truck in Winnipeg. Streets are workplaces where every day thousands of people are doing their jobs, making the pickups and deliveries that make urban life possible. This means that travel lanes and turning lanes need to safely accommodate commercial trucks wherever those lanes are located. The MTA appreciates the attention provided to goods movement in Transportation 2050. Goods movement is a core transportation system requirement. Goods movement is why transportation is the land use that makes all other land uses viable. As we have noted in the past, all urban properties depend on trucks, whether for services, pickups, deliveries, construction projects, or solid waste removal. The viability of commercial industrial properties and their value in the marketplace especially depends on their ability to be serviced by truck. Goods movement is trade. Trade is why a city exists and why it persists, and this is especially the case for Winnipeg. We would like to thank the Standing Policy Committee on Public Works for its patience and attention to this agenda item. The MTA supports the recommendations of the Standing Policy Committee, and we thank all of you for your service.
Appreciate that. Any questions at all? Councilor Lukes.
More of a did you know question statement. This has been a long road that we've been on, a journey, right? And I just want to express my appreciation for all the insight and guidance that MTA has provided. I think by the formation, which was a recommendation from MTA to form the Goods Movement Advisory Committee, was really, really foundational in helping set where this went, right? And you and I, we've had lots of discussions on this. It's a city without freeways. We have to find that balance. It's hard, very hard. But I can't thank you enough. I can't thank MTA enough for the constant advice and guidance and input that you provided. You see this council is very focused on economic development, and we're a global multimodal transportation hub with Centerport, right? And trade is, well, we don't know what's unfolding with the north-south, but east-west is great potential. But the input MTA has provided and the professionalism and the industry, which I've been able to attend many events and understand much greater, it's something to be very proud of. And you're doing great work, as is Mr. Dolinick, and I just want to thank you.
Well, you're very welcome.
Yeah, very happy, yeah.
You're very welcome, and we're only pleased to provide whatever assistance, be it technical or conceptual or otherwise, whenever it may be required, or we can contribute to the further development of this city and the region. Thank you very much.
Super. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
Linton.
Thank you
Thank
for all
you.
your work. Appreciate that.
Okay, our last delegation today is Lauren Remillard, joining us via Zoom. Lauren, if you want to go ahead and unmute yourself and turn on your camera, you have up to 5 minutes.
Yeah, I'm just trying to get my camera working. There we are. Good morning, everyone. As noted, Lauren Remillard, President and CEO of the Winnipeg Chamber of Commerce. Thank you for the opportunity to appear before you today in support of the Master Transportation Plan. As you know, the Winnipeg Chamber of Commerce was established in 1873, basically there at the laying of the first road in our city. And we've been building this city ever since as a trusted advocate for Winnipeg's business community, and of course, the city's largest business organization. We represent over 2,000 businesses employing more than 90,000 people from all sizes and sectors. With members who do business in every corner of the city, we are keenly aware of the gaps in Winnipeg's transportation network. Our vision, though, is for Winnipeg to be a competitive, innovative city with modern infrastructure to support existing and emerging industries, a city with a bright future. And I'll note the comment, and I agree, Mr. Mayor, Absolutely, the city is the last to receive the benefits of investments in economic development, and you do so to be able to generate revenues. Even if they do come later than any other level of government, you generate those revenues for services. But I think it's critically important to also recognize, as a city, we're making those investments because people either stay here or move here to work, to set up a business, because they see a thriving, dynamic community, economic community, cultural and otherwise. So let's always be mindful of when we make economic investments, it's to create the city that becomes a magnet for our own people, but others from across the country as well. We couldn't agree more that an effective, safe, and efficient transportation is key to economic growth, and we're glad to see economic prosperity as one of the 4 targets listed in Transportation 2050. On behalf of the Chamber, I'm pleased to appear before you today to support this important report. Whether you're hauling goods in a truck, driving to work, or walking to a meeting, how we move through the city directly impacts our economic prosperity. As our city grows, and it's been growing leaps and bounds because of the decisions that this council and others have made, that have created a city that people want to be a part of, to be part of building that city. As it grows, the strength and dependability of our transportation options will only become more important. Planning for increased demand now will promote future success, and I applaud you for that. We have seen various other levels or other city administrations continue to, quote, kick the can down the road. I think what this council has done, or will do, hopefully with this report and this plan, will stop that and start making strategic investments now that will pay dividends down the road. That is not something we see often, so just do want to applaud you for embracing that. Now for the specifics, the Chamber welcomes the plan's emphasis on improving the movement of goods and understanding Winnipeg as a multimodal transportation hub. Enhancing logistics efficiency is critical for maintaining Winnipeg's competitiveness as a trading city with robust manufacturing, food processing, and transportation sectors that support thousands of jobs and contribute significantly to our local economy. As Transportation 2050 is implemented over the next 3 decades, preserving critical routes for goods movement must remain a priority. Without a growing economy, we won't be able to afford the estimated $4.3 billion required to implement this plan over the next 25 years. Additionally, the Chamber supports the report's commitment to shifting towards sustainable transportation options, including increased investments in public transit, walking, and cycling infrastructure. While balance is a key, these initiatives are essential for creating vibrant, accessible communities that attract investment and people to our city. We are particularly pleased with the focus on coordinating transportation and land use planning. Promoting compact, mixed-use development aligns with our vision of creating complete communities where businesses can thrive and residents can easily access their daily needs. Regarding prioritizing the maintenance of existing infrastructure, we applaud a focus on responsible spending, but we know the importance of strategic road expansions in key areas that can foster economic growth. Including economic development as part of the assessment criteria for strategically enhancing the road network is essential, but so is the weight of each of the 5 evaluation criteria. The Chamber cautions Council not to undervalue economic development as a metric, and in doing so potentially stunt our city's economic growth. We recommend evaluating each proposal using data-driven assessments as stated, considering potential economic and environmental impacts. To begin wrapping up, the Chamber, as you may have noticed, advocates for an optimal balance, promoting sustainable transportation as our city's population and density grows, and ensuring the efficient movement of goods so Winnipeg can continue to prosper. Infrastructure investment should be strategic and guided by data that demonstrates reduced congestion and improved access to commercial areas, reinforcing our city's role in trade and economic growth. So in conclusion, we would like to acknowledge the Winnipeg Public Service and the members of council that have been involved for the hours and hours, countless hours of work and consultation. This plan aims to guide transportation planning over the next 25 years. No small task. The Chamber remains committed to working collaboratively with you, city planners, and other stakeholders on the many actions and recommendations to come. This is not the end of the work, but a strong foundation to ensure our transportation network meets the needs of our growing economy while enhancing the quality of life for all residents. It is for that reason that we support Transportation 2050 with the outlined considerations and encourage you to adopt these recommendations for a sustainable future for Winnipeg. Thank you very much.
Great, thank you very much, Mr. Remillard. Any questions at all? Comments, Mr.?
You've covered it. That's very good, Lauren, and you're right, it's been a long, long journey, due to a lot of reasons, but we're here, and, we're really moving towards trying to get a more sustainable city in place, focusing on economic development, and it's that balance, right? So, thank you.
If I may, Councillor Lukes, just one of the areas, and it's just something I know that you're mindful of, but because the time that is taken to move us to where we are today, we just want to make sure some of that data, the data points and information continues to be constantly updated, because the last thing we want to do is, as you noted rightfully, this began during COVID. So some of the data has shifted a little bit. I don't think monumental that it would undermine this report, but we just want to make sure we're always working with the most up-to-date data.
Yeah, I know. And I was walking across the street today thinking about this and thinking, oh my goodness, they literally are going to have to start soon for the next 5 years, but we're not going to think about that right now. We've got to get this through. So thank you very much, Mr. Remillard.
Thank you.
Thank you. I think that's all of our delegations, Madam Clerk.
That's correct.
Okay. Moving on to our agenda then, with the concurrence of my colleagues, I'd like to move the report of the Governance Committee of Council dated May 15th to the top of the agenda so we can deal with that first. Our Integrity Commissioner, Ms. Sherry Walsh, is here. I just want to respect her time, and so if everyone's good with that, we'll just move that to the first item.
Sure.
Okay, all right.
Okay.
Moved, thank you, Rich. Okay, so the matter is before us. I don't know if there's any questions that anyone has. Councilor Lukes, I think you're going to move this report.
Yeah, right. So I don't have any questions on this. I think it's pretty clear. We really appreciate the work of the Integrity Commissioner. I know that many people use her services from the public and councillors combined. And she's again put a really robust report together that covers examples so people understand the role of the Integrity Commissioner, kind of, providing her advice, examples that she's used. So I think that's always good in the report to help people really understand what she does and doesn't do, or what the services that she provides are. And we make little updates and changes as we learn and evolve. But sure, when I reflect back, I think it's been almost 10 years now, 9 years since we started this. So I submit this report to the committee here for receiving as information.
Yes, thank you very much. Appreciate that. I would want to just add to that. I appreciate the fact that when and if there are adjustments, amendments, changes to the code, that's done really in consultation with councillors.
Yep.
And we're always looking, it seems like it's a bit of a living, breathing document, always willing to take a look at situations that come up that maybe could not have been anticipated, and see how and if the code needs to be amended accordingly. But that's always through a very consultation and discussion and dialogue with councillors, which I think is important as well, and my office too. So, okay. If there's no further questions then or comments?
I'm putting a motion forward
Okay,
to
it's
receive
been
this
moved to
information.
receive. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you. That matter is ordered. Thank you very much for being here today, Sherry. Okay, moving back then to the monthly update on supportive housing, addiction, and social action indicators. Mr. CAO.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I will invite Lissy Rappaport, our manager of the Housing Accelerator Fund team, to come down and present this month's report, as well as answer any questions. Welcome, Lissy.
Good morning, and thank you very much for being here.
Good morning, everyone. I will present the monthly report for June 2025 on housing statistics. So as always, Table 1 outlines the number of units we've approved as a city through development applications, development permits, and building permits. Primarily, development applications and development permits represent the pipeline of housing to come through into building permits. Table 2 outlines building permits over the period of our Housing Accelerator Fund agreement, so from December 5th, 2023 to June 4th, 2025. We're on track. We are at 43% of our units over the 3-year period and about halfway through our 3-year agreement, so I think that's good news. We always expected the majority of units that we would incent with our new programs to come later in 2025 or even 2026, so things are looking on track. As there's been much discussion over the last couple months, we are above our target for missing middle, and we are below our target, so we're less than 43% when we look at multifamily within proximity of frequent or rapid transit. So that's something to watch for. I'm not very concerned because all of the units we've approved through our half capital grant program will all be within proximity transit. I will note for EPC's consideration here, one risk that we're watching is that 6 out of the 10 projects that we've approved through our half capital grants round 1, which require a building permit by September of this year, so 6 out of 10 of them are still awaiting approval from CMHC under the Affordable Housing Fund. And as there's been conversation in the last couple weeks, the loan program of that program has run out of funds. There's still money left in the grant program, but most groups access both of them to make a project work. And so we are, fully optimistic that the federal government will commit additional dollars, but the question will be when. And so some of those projects may be late on that September deadline, so we'll have to think about how we approach that. But we're continuing to monitor progress with all these projects and work directly with the nonprofits to figure out potentially alternative funding solutions at the federal level.
Can I ask a question on
Yeah.
that one? Then, I'm assuming then, in your, I shouldn't assume, but in your dialogue with CMHC, I'm assuming they're aware that 6 out of the 10 of these projects have both affordable housing funding and housing accelerator funding, and so it's, CMHC is kind of, they're kind of at it from both ends here, both the housing accelerator fund, and then they're responsible really to kind of, in partnership with the feds, to get that affordable housing fund out the door as well, right?
Yeah, we've been communicating both with our CMHC colleagues who run the Affordable Housing Fund, as well as our colleagues who are our agreement contacts on the Housing Accelerator Fund agreement. So we've flagged it for our half colleagues that it could be a risk for us to not meet our targets under this year. And I have been communicating with other prairie cities as well, Saskatoon, Regina, Calgary, and Edmonton, who are also facing the same challenge and have raised it with CMHC as well.
Okay.
Just for knowledge of scope, the 6 out of 10 units represent 680 units of housing, including 464 deeply affordable. So we would really love to see those projects move forward this year. And then I will just also note on Table 2, there's a slight fluctuation in the number of units within proximity of transit. We notice a slight error in our maps that we received from transit. There was a few larger properties that are on the edge of the river that were not counted within proximity to transit because the walkshed buffer didn't consider one of the bridges in the city. So we've corrected that error and it's been accounted for in this report. And then finally, in Table 3, which is the number of units that have been approved through City of Winnipeg funding, just a note that this has seen a reduction in 126 units between last month and this month because one of our projects that we approved under the half capital grants program has withdrawn their application because they've decided they can't make the project move forward. One of the projects that we approved under the half grants round 1 has withdrawn their application because they are not able to move the project forward. So that is noted in Table 3 as a reduction of 126 units.
Will your department then come forward with recommendation as to how to reallocate those funds or a different grant or something of that nature?
Yep, the bylaw identifies that it can go to the next in line or a land enhancement project. So we are going to be reviewing that and we'll present it to council and the CAO for awareness.
Thank you.
126.
Any other questions at all on this item?
What time frame do you decide, what's the time frame to reaward the funding for the units? The ones
the-
that couldn't build?
We don't have a timeframe explicitly. I would imagine by the end of the summer.
Okay.
Because we want to see a project move forward by the December 2026
Right.
deadline. The longer we wait, the harder that
Right.
will be.
Right, and cost money, so, okay.
Any other questions at all?
No, great.
Okay.
Lots of work, incredible amount of work. Thank you for all
Good.
you do.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah.
Appreciate that. Thank you. Okay. Councilor Duncan, would you move adoption of this, well, I guess concurrence with this verbal report information?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Move to receive the information.
All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carried. Okay. Item number 2, we have a motion coming around related to citizen member appointments, committees, boards, and commissions.
Do you want me to take the chair, Mr. Mayor?
Yes, I'll pass the chair to you, Councilor Lukes, at this time, please. Thank you very much. Thank you. And then with this, I would move that this is related to a Winnipeg Police Board member appointment. I want to thank, first of all, Mr. Kevin Selch, who served on the police board and did great work. He's indicated that he's had to step down, frankly, just I think because of other commitments. I think he currently is the chair of the board of the Winnipeg Chamber of Commerce. Of course, he's running a very busy and successful business as well, and so I want to thank him for his time. The motion before you is that the following citizen be appointed to the Winnipeg Police Board for the balance of the 2-year term to expire on December 31st, 2026, and that's Mr. Amit Kapoor. And Mr. Amit Kapoor is a businessman, among other things, in the city of Winnipeg here, owns several restaurants, McDonald's restaurants, employs, I think, 800 people or something to that effect. And also, I think right now serves or has served on the board of the Winnipeg Convention Center, RBC Convention Center, and so no stranger to board work, and has made great contributions to our community, and I believe will do a really excellent job as a member of the Winnipeg Police Board. So that's the first motion, Madam Clerk, or Madam Chair.
Any comments or? No? I've had the opportunity to work with Mr. Kapoor on the Winnipeg Chamber, or on the Convention Center Board, and I have many dealings with him related to one of his site locations in the Waverly West Ward and the issues that these retail operations face. So I think this is an excellent appointment. I'm really supportive of it. So the motion's in front of everyone right now. If there's no comments on that, I'll call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, opposed? Carried. Super.
Also, just to let everyone know as well, that I've sent an email to the clerk and our speaker, Councillor Sharma, just to inform them that I too am stepping off the police board at this time. Now that the police chief has been hired, I wanted to stay in that role and appreciate council's support to stay in that role until we got Chief Bowers hired. Now that that has been done, I'm stepping down, which will allow and call for another member of council in due course here to be nominated by this council and take a seat on the police board as well. So that'll be in the hands, the timing of that's in the hands of our clerk and our speaker. But I want to thank council for their support of me to serve in that role for this time in this term. It's been excellent, and I appreciate the work of the board, and I look forward to another councillor stepping up and serving in that capacity.
Okay. All right. Hand
you.
the chair back.
Thank you. With that, I'll take the chair back. Okay, item number 3 is the update report number 4 on the economic response and recovery plan projects situated inside and outside the downtown.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. It's my pleasure to move this report and the recommendation, again, about a funding consolidation for Stephen Juba Park as outlined in Appendix C. And also at this point, would like to acknowledge that the North Kildonan and East Kildonan allocations for this project were recently opened with a ribbon cutting about a week and a half ago. Certainly want to appreciate all the staff and my late colleague, Councillor Jason Shire, who partnered with me on this project. Every time I drive down Henderson Highway, it's quite busy and well used, and would like to thank you, Your Worship, for attending in person. So my pleasure to move this report today.
Okay, all those in favor, aye? Aye. Opposed, carried, thank you. Item 4, Winnipeg Indigenous Accord Partner Goals and Progress Report. Councillor Lukes.
All right. I would like to move this report to be received as information. Nope, I'm just looking here, just wait here. No, we have recommendations in it. Apologize, I'm dealing with a cold here. So I'd like to bring this report forward to have committee accept it.
Okay, concur with the recommendations
Yep,
here?
to agree
Okay,
with the recommendations.
all those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Carried, thank you. Item 5, 2024 Council Report, Workplace Safety. Councillor Brawadi.
Thank you very much. This report I'd like to receive as information.
Okay, all those in favor, aye? Opposed, oh, carried. Thank you very much. I'm going to turn the chair back to, no, I don't think I need to turn the chair back. I'll just take the chair here. Youth Programming Fund 2025 to 2027. I will just express appreciation to members of our public service and councillors, who worked on this matter. This was $1 million that was put into the 2025 budget through the balance of this multi-year budget, an annual allocation of $1 million that goes to organizations right now in our community who are doing outstanding work in providing recreation services and other services for young people. So today, we have a report before us that recommends an annual youth programming fund grants be approved from the city to each of the proponents listed below for the programming in the amount specified during the period of 2025, 2027 inclusive. I think this is, I'm very excited about this. We talk about, among other things, level of crime in our city, level of poverty in our city, and we talk about for young people to get on a good path, a healthy path, and a positive path, they need good mentors, key activities, good peers at the formative time of their life. And I want to commend all these different organizations, these 17 and more, for the work that they're doing in our city to make life better for young people. And so by us as a city adding a bit of an injection investment in them, it allows them to expand the good programming that they're doing. And it really should be seen, among other things, I think, as preventative. We often talk about going upstream to prevent, challenges and intercept problematic behavior before it happens. And that's in part what some of this work of these organizations is all about. And so we can see it's a very diverse group spread across many wards. And I want to thank, again, these organizations for the work they do and believe that this investment by council is an investment in youth, the young people of our city, in key areas, key geographic areas of the city, which will have a positive impact in the long run. So that is the report before us, and I'm really, again, grateful to the council members who are supporting this. Councillor Lukes.
Too. I want to thank the public service for the amount of work that they went into in identifying the high poverty areas. I think that I think people will be surprised when they look at the map, when they look at Appendix 1, the map of higher poverty areas in the city of Winnipeg. We know we have very high poverty areas in the downtown, but I think that people really are under a misconception that it's only in the downtown. We have in St. Vital, we've got a pocket of space along Abinogi-Michana, and I think this is really a bit shocking for some people to see, is that in South Winnipeg, next to downtown, we have the second highest area of poverty. In Fort Richmond, Waverly West, up and down the Pembina Strip. So this percolated up through really good work of the public service. A lot of us know that in the South End, that, we do have big challenges. And I really want to thank them for the work they did on this, the higher needs area, higher poverty areas. And I'm very pleased that this programming is over a period of 3 years, that it's not a one-off, right? It's over 3 years. So that helps put some stability into the programming and helps organizations move forward on this proactive measure. So thank you.
Great. Thank you very much. Any other comments at all? Okay. Then I'll entertain a motion. Councilor Luke, are you moving?
Sure,
that
I'll
then?
make the
Okay.
motion, sure.
All in favor, aye. Opposed, carried. Thank you very much. Item number, 7 is the Winnipeg Committee for Safety Contract Renewal and Committee Coordinator. Councilor Duncan.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I will move committee recommendation.
All those in favor, aye. Aye. Opposed, carried. 8, award of contract for supply and delivery of bulk fuel. Councilor Brawadi.
Thank you. I'd like to move the public service recommendation.
All those in favor, aye. Aye. Opposed, carried. 9, creation of firearms investigative analysis section, expansion, capital project. Councilor Eady.
Yes, I will move the recommendation of the expenditures for expanding their operations to deal with the illegal guns. Recommendation.
All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carried. Thank you. Item number 10, financial stabilization reserve replenishment plan interim measure. Councilor Brawadi.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. I would like to move the public service recommendation.
Thank you. I want to thank, just before we call the question, certainly thank our CFO, Tracy Graham, and her entire team, and Councillor Brawadi as well for their work on identifying ways to replenish the stabilization reserve. This is a good step towards, making progress towards our targeted amount. So all those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Item 11, proposed opening of Parcel A, Plan 50779, WLTO is Waterfront Drive, adjacent to 120 Higgins Avenue. Councillor Duncan.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I'll move all 3 recommendations of the Winnipeg Public Service.
All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carried. 12, Building Safer Communities Fund 2025 to 2026 funding increase. Councillor Duncan.
Yes, item number 12, I will also move the recommendation of the Winnipeg Public Service. Thank you very much to the Public Service for putting this together, and as the title says, building safer communities.
Thank you. Just a reminder, this is federal money. It brings federal money into the city that would otherwise be lost. So we appreciate the investment of the federal government. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carried. We have the, the addenda item, item 13, which is delegation of authority to the chief of police. We do have one amendment on this motion. I'll turn the chair to Councillor Lukes then at this time. Thank you.
All right, I have the chair. So I think, Mr. Mayor, did you want to speak to this?
I will, thank you. Appreciate that sometimes the delegation of authority can make it faster for and easier for departments to get the approvals they need and be a little more nimble rather than coming to council. However, on the one item, I do believe it's important that we make sure that we maintain the kind of protocols that are established here. The mayor's office is intergovernmental lead, and council really needs to have a say on negotiations and ultimately any contract that would be signed with federal or provincial governments. And so the motion then is to accept all of this except to delete recommendation 1B1 and remain and then renumber the remaining subclauses to be renumbered accordingly. And that is that what we're deleting is the receipt of program or project-specific funding with the federal or provincial governments or agencies or any other entity, as well as documents required in support of funding applications or as condition of receipt of funds, including reporting requirements. I do not believe that that authority should be delegated to the chief to go off and do and negotiate on their own. That has to come through the intergovernmental lead, which is the mayor's office, and then ultimately with the approval of council. So other than that, the rest can go forward, but I'm calling on us to remove that one clause.
Okay, are there any questions from anyone, committee members on this? It's pretty clear what the mayor is setting out to do. All right, well, if there's no questions then, I guess I'll call for the amendment, support of the amendment. All in favor?
Aye.
Carried. And then I'll call for the support for the recommendations in the report. All in favor?
Aye.
Carried. All right,
Okay. Thank you very much.
okay.
Madam Clerk, we have another motion here.
Correct. We have 3 new business motions, and they'll be passed out shortly.
Thank you.
Lots of motions.
Any further suspension of the rules for these?
Sorry.
Did you
Yes, thank you.
These are 3 new motions, so I'll move suspension of the rules to deal with these 3 new matters as well.
Councilor Lukes, you have the chair. You want to call the question on that?
Oh, sorry.
Oh, okay, all right.
Just call the question.
Suspension of the rules to deal with these 3 new items.
Sure. All right, suspend the rules to deal with the 3 new items.
That's my motion, just call for the
That's-
question.
You still have the
Okay.
chair.
All in favor?
Aye.
Carried.
Councilor Lukes, then I would put forward this really exciting motion that we're bringing forward today a recommendation on a new Chief Administrative Officer for the City of Winnipeg, who will be, subject to council approval, would begin his work on August 4th, 2025. That Mr. Joseph Dunford be appointed to the position of Chief Administrative Officer for the City of Winnipeg effective August 4th, 2025. And that, the other clauses in the motion are kind of fairly standard clauses, but really excited and to bring forward this motion and to have this announcement today. And I want to thank, first of all, our interim CAO, who will still be in the role for this until that time. I want to thank Mr. Sherwood Armbruster for his work, his leadership, his steady hand, and the confidence I think that he has brought really to all of our public service and all of our council as well. And your leadership has been and is really, really appreciated. You have done and continue to do just an excellent job in this role. So thank you so much. It's not easy to step in and kind of bridge the gap between permanent CAOs, and you've done so and are doing so with integrity and great leadership. I want to also thank the selection committee, the recruiting committee, for all of the work that each one has done and the hours of effort that have been put into this selection process. And the details related to Mr. Joseph Dunford have gone out in a press release as well, just to highlight his background and some of the work that he has done. He currently serves as Deputy Minister of the Public Service Delivery for the Government of Manitoba. He's a professional engineer with more than 2 decades of experience in the public and quasi-public sectors with senior leadership roles in Manitoba, Nova Scotia, Newfoundland, and Labrador. His responsibilities have included oversight of capital planning, infrastructure, IT, procurement, and frontline services. He's led major efforts, including Lean Six Sigma approaches across departments, and managed some of Canada's largest infrastructure projects, including a $5 billion hospital, P3 project in Halifax, and large-scale capital investments in transportation and healthcare across multiple provinces. And so, again, I want to thank Councillors Sharma, Barwadi, Eadie, and Lukes for all of your work over the last several months. So that is my motion.
All right, any comments, any input? I just want to thank Mr. Armbruster, too, who stepped in and who steps into a lot of different roles here in the city and manages to maneuver the city through a lot of different situations. And thank you for taking our calls, my calls, and answering and all of that. And thank you, Mr. Mayor, for being on the selection committee. I've been a little challenged over the years, without a doubt to say, but I'm very excited about Mr. Dunford, who will be leading the public service. This is a huge role, 10,000 plus, give or take, people on any given day. And if we don't have that machine working for us, we can't get anything done. And you know, he's bringing a lot of expertise to this. He's very keen. It was a very good process. I want to thank the firm, too, that we used to go through the process. Lots of interviews, lots of meetings, lots of great candidates, but this gentleman rose to the top, and I'm very excited about what the future holds here. So with that, I guess I'll call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Carried.
Thank you. I'll take the chair back then. Thank you very much, Councillor Lukes. Moving on, we have 2 more motions. They're coming to us. I think Councillor Duncan is moving both of them. So Councillor Duncan, I'll turn it to you at this time.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Two motions here for EPC's consideration today. I will start with my vacant buildings motion. Looking at this, some of the concerns that have come forward where buildings are either under renovation or some type of work is undergoing where they're deemed vacant where they are actually not vacant and being fined for that. In that case, and I've seen this several times now, where fines are actually being reversed at an appeal process. So this looks at adjusting that bylaw. So what we are asking for here is recommendations from the public service on how to exempt these actual renovation projects. At the same time, not leaving any loopholes for those property owners who do have those vacant and derelict buildings throughout the city. So a safeguard there where properties aren't sitting for lengthy period of time, but at the same time where people are actually doing the work to improve our communities and increase our housing stock to address that as well without having them penalized.
Okay, thank you very much. I certainly appreciate this motion. We want to encourage redevelopment of vacant and derelict buildings. We don't want to do anything to hamper or dissuade property owners from fixing up those properties. And so if we can, have our staff take a look at what's happening here to see if we can find a way to make sure more of those properties get redeveloped faster, much better. Councillor Eadie.
Yeah, just to speak, I'm really happy that our chairperson of Property and Development is moving this motion. I can't begin to tell you, in my ward, of course, we have a lot of those vacant derelict, but there are people who inherit houses and they find it very difficult. They're spending the money to fix up the house, do the development permit, building permits, and so on and so forth. And then lo and behold, they get a fine. And, that's taking money away from the money that they're investing, trying to get those houses back in a livable shape so someone can enjoy the neighborhood. So I really appreciate that you're doing this.
Okay, thank you very much. I'll call the question then. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Carried. Next motion, Councillor Duncan, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. This is brought by I guess a learning process on my behalf, but also working with your office, learning from the department as well, that in regards to development applications being deemed complete, I've learned that before 2021, City Council and the Director of PP&D shared the authority to declare these development applications complete. For the purpose of moving these to public hearings. So this is where the public would come and speak to these items. We have had instances where the development applications take additional time. And in some cases, we have projects that need to move along because those decisions are contingent on major investment into our city. So this is essentially an additional layer that would be a fail-safe that either the Standing Policy Committee on Property and Development would be able to deem when a development application is complete, or the Executive Policy Committee, or the directors. So it's a shared responsibility. However, I would like to note, Mr. Mayor, that this wouldn't just be it's complete, that's it. There needs to be a written submission that would state the reasons for consideration of either the Standing Policy Committee or the Executive Policy Committee or the Director of PP&D. So at this point in time, the motion directs the Public Service to report back with a draft bylaw for amendments to restore the shared authority.
Okay, thank you very much for this motion. Yes, this is there's a bit of rigor put involved here as well. People have to show that indeed their application is, ready to go. So, okay. Any questions on this? Comments? Okay, I'll call the question. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. Moving on now to the implementation of the Audit Recommendations Report 2025 Q1. Councillor Bawadi on that.
Thank you, Your Worship. My pleasure to move, to receive this as information.
Okay, any questions at all? Councillor Lukes.
I was just wondering if either the audit folks or the CAO could give us an update on the workforce management audit, the last couple to be implemented.
I'll turn it over to our interim CEO, Mr. Armbrust, to respond to that, whether he wants to call Mr.
Yeah,
Eggert down.
I'll call Jason Eggert, our city auditor, to provide a quick update, and I can fill in blanks if needed as well. Comes Jason.
And while he's coming down, I'll just mention, they're going to be kind of updating the reports for us so that we don't have to go back every quarter to try and find this information. It'll be at our fingertips here, so that's really positive. Because I could go back through all of this, but I just thought maybe we could just have a little update. This is a really important
Yes.
audit that's occurring, and the modifications and recommendations that are being implemented.
Thank you, Councillor. Through the mayor, thank you.
Yeah,
And thank you for the
morning.
opportunity to
Thank you.
share our work in this regard. Mr. Eggert provided an excellent presentation to our entire senior management team on that last week, so we look forward
Excellent.
to
Okay, and I got it too,
together
so.
on that. So.
Thank you.
And thank you for Councillor Lukes for actually working with us on developing that report. Don't have like, as far as specific recommendations, like the ones that are remaining are actually quite a ways out. Like if you take a look at the report, it's page 4 of 8. There were not required, there's one that's coming up on Q2, but there's the next ones are actually due on Q4. And as far as they're the maintaining of them and that, I know there's a lot of reporting going forward with at senior management team as far as making sure that the ones that are in place are being sustained also. I mean, so I think that's a really good progress that we've been making, and that's kind of the way this process is going, is that we're making sure that projects and recommendations that are implemented are communicated, documented, and actually have a process in place to sustain them. So not only can they check the box that it's been done, but they actually are working. As far as specific, I'm happy to go offline and go on the specifics on that one. But to your point, going forward, there will be a report that will actually have every recommendation, and it'll actually have the status beside it and where it's at, if it's been implemented or whatever. And it'll also have the original date that it was actually projected to be the target date on that, and then what the revised date is.
So just to give me an idea here, so departments make the recommendations, they implement the recommendations. What sort of checks and balances are in place to ensure they are sustaining the recommendations?
So, Frank, so we bring this report to you for, it's your oversight role to actually hold public service accountable. That's our report. Once it's been implemented, we actually don't do a lot of work unless we're compelled to go in and on another audit to check that it's sustainable. That's why we've changed our processes a little bit to make sure that at least when we sign off on it, everything is in place that it should be sustainable. There's no guarantee it's sustained. I mean, I believe that the recommendations that we come up with public service show that it actually improves the service, so there's a willingness to actually keep it going, and it actually does provide value on that side. Is there an absolute guarantee? No. And on bigger projects, we could have a post-implementation audit in 2 or 3 years that specifically looks at those recommendations. We don't typically, we're fairly busy on doing new stuff, but at the same time, we're open to that also.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Thank
Thank you very much for your work. Any other questions at all? Okay, I'll call the, Councillor Bawadi had moved that, so I'll call the question on receiving this matter. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Moving on to the report of the Standing Policy Committee on Water, Waste, and the Environment dated June 9th, 2025. Councillor Eady.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. They're all pretty straightforward reports. I'll move reports items 1 through 3.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Moving on then now to the report of the Standing Policy Committee on Finance and Economic Development dated June 10th, 2025. Councillor Bawadi.
Thank you very much. My pleasure to move the financial status and forecast report.
All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Addendum report of Standing Policy Committee on Property and Development dated June 11, 2025. There are 8 items here. Councillor Duncan.
Should the committee not have any questions, I'd like to move items 1 through 8.
Okay. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carried. Thank you very much. Moving on then to report of the Standing Policy Committee on Public Works dated June the 12th, 2025. Councillor Lukes.
Yeah, there's some housekeeping items in Report 1. I'd like to pull item number 3, the Transportation Master Plan, and move consented, well, not consent agenda, move items 1, 2, 4, and 5.
Okay, that's a motion. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carried.
Okay.
Thank you. Item number 3, Councillor Lukes, that is the
Okay.
Transportation Master Plan.
So the Transportation Master Plan, right, so I think we heard this morning that this has been a long time coming, and it's here. I really want to stress that in the Transportation Master Plan, it is a snapshot in time, and that things evolve, right? We've prioritized roads, we've prioritized active transportation, but depending on partnerships, depending on funding from other levels of government, that will help determine what gets done. We did rearrange in the Public Works Committee, we did rearrange sort of the priorities. The Strategic Road Network Study is a very important study that really assesses the current state of affairs and helps guide the public service on how to move forward. So we moved that up, and we also moved prioritization of the goods movement study also, including the proposed truck route network. So we moved that up, and we made some other adjustments. We asked them to come back to give us a prioritization of and recommended hiring timeline of the additional positions. I will note there's been an incredible amount of funding, I'll say it again, an incredible amount of funding into the active transportation portfolio. And in order to deliver that program, they do need some more staff. They've made that recommendation in here. And also the sustainable transportation planners, because we're investing heavily in transit, heavily in active transportation, and it's important that we, ensure the community is aware, and we've got these planners to help us move forward on this. So we've made some adjustments. I want to thank the public service again for their efforts, and I also want to note that Mr. Nernick, who has been in the department since 1999. He's been here 26 years, that he is retiring. And that's, it is a huge loss for the city. He, after 26 years, you really know what is happening. He's the manager of engineering in the Public Works Division. But I just really wanted to thank him. He's always been very forward, maybe to the chagrin of the director, but very forward with his comments and answers when we ask him. There's not a lot of spin when we talk to him. It's really appreciated by the councillors and by myself. And he's been a pleasure to work with. So I want to make note of that, because he's really contributed to our city, focused on bridges, a lot of the engineering projects, the major ones, and just wanted to acknowledge that. So with all of that, if there's no questions, I will make a motion to move the report and accept the recommendations that were made.
Thank you, Councillor Lukes. I'll just add my appreciation as well to Mr. Bradnier for all of his work for the people of Winnipeg and for council over the decades that he has served in his role, and always, yes, I agree, always certainly brought his professional, I think, integrity and commitment to excellence, when he was in conversation and with council and certainly the public and all the work that he has done. I too want to thank you, Councillor Lukes, for all your work on the Transportation Master Plan over years as well, that you've been involved in it. And then specifically, kind of for cleaning up some of the recommendations you just highlighted. It was a bit, perhaps, maybe not unwieldy, but it was, it's better. It's a better product now because of the work that you did, so thank you very
Passionate
much.
crowd involved, a passionate crowd.
There we go. So thank you very much for your leadership on this as well. So with that, I'll call the question on item number 3. All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carried. Report on Standing Policy Committee on Community Services dated June 13th, 2025. Councillor Santos is away on city business, so Councillor Eady, I'll turn this one to you.
Yes, Mayor. One report here on short-term rentals. I just wanted to note 698 various types of STRs licensed now. Over $1 million worth of revenue related. Over 600,000 into the from the accommodation tax into our fund for helping to develop more of a tourist convention place. So I'll just move the report.
Okay, thank you very much, Councillor Eady.
Just-
All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carried. Thank you. I believe that's the end of our agenda. So Councillor Duncan, would you move consent agenda and adjournment?
Consent adjournment and adjournment, my pleasure.
All those in favor, aye. Opposed, carried. Thank you very much. We are adjourned.